Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Ringside Wrestling Entertainment. This is Joel Perez here for your Money in the Bank preview and predictions. Yes, the Money in the Bank pay-per-view is coming up this very Sunday. And of course, there's a lot of matches to talk about. This pay-per-view has a lot to do with WWE, not just for the month that this show is happening, but for the rest of the year, because this show leaves looming a Money in the Bank contract holder, particularly two nowadays, because there is a men's and women's Money in the Bank, so it leaves two Money in the Bank contract holders who can cash in those Money in the Bank contracts at any given moment on any world champion, I guess you can say, of their brand, and they can cash in and become the world champion, which is clearly one of the most exciting moments of the year if done correctly on WWE television, and it definitely sparks controversy like we saw last year after Baron Corbin's cash-in if things are not done correctly. So this is a big pay-per-view, and unfortunately, it seems like WWE has lost sight of that because it seems like television has been completely phoned in over these past couple weeks. I can't say that much for Smackdown. Smackdown has actually been pretty decent, but as far as Monday Night Raw goes, there's no exception that show has been in a terrible state, and ratings, viewership, interest has reflected that not just on WWE's product, but on everybody's wrestling YouTube channel, but on everybody's wrestling radar throughout the entire community. So, Money in the Bank, big pay-per-view, big things looming, but the build and the quality of Raw and SmackDown hasn't been quite up to snuff, and that brings me to the things we're going to be talking about in this video, because it's called Preview and Predictions. That leads everybody to assume that we're just talking about predictions. Who do I think is going to win this? Who do I think is going to win that? Well, nope, I'm giving you a little bit extra, a lot of bit extra as a matter of fact, because we're going to be talking about the very quality in detail of Raw and SmackDown going into this pay-per-view. We're going to be talking about the build to this pay-per-view. We're going to be talking about all these matches in detail, the build to all these matches in detail, and of course I'm going to give you who I think is going to win, who I want to win, who I think WWE is going to make win, because it is two different things right there, and of course what impact these matches have going into the future, as well as whether or not I think this pay-per-view is relevant or not, which I kind of have already answered by telling you that this pay-per-view has an impact on the entire year of the WWE product based on when they decide to do these Money in the Bank cash-ins. Either way, Money in the Bank 2018 preview and predictions, here it is. But before we get into that, I just want to tell you guys very quickly to make sure to go check out all of the content on the Ringside Wrestling YouTube channel. And of course, the reason that I say that is because there is so much other content to go check out, especially this week. You're going to be seeing a barrage of content on the channel that I can classify, and you should be able to classify as well as can't miss stuff. Just this past Monday and Tuesday, yesterday and Monday, or I'm filming this on Wednesday, so I guess you can say Monday and Tuesday since this is going to be uploaded on Thursday. But either way, this past Monday and Tuesday, Monday Night Raw, SmackDown live reviews can be found on the Ringside Wrestling YouTube channel. Two very top-notch reviews. At the end of that Monday Night Raw review, I was going crazy because nobody wants to sit there and talk about Monday Night Raw for an hour. But guess what? I did exactly that. So make sure to go check out that Monday Night Raw review. By the end of that one, it gets pretty frantic, as well as your SmackDown live review. Talk about everything that happened. Both go-home shows to the very show that we're talking about here today, Money in the Bank 2018. You can, of course, go check out Behind the Mic for this past weekend. Of course, Behind the Mic is where we talk about all the biggest news for the week on WWE. That is the main podcast of the Ringside Wrestling YouTube channel. And we were talking some big news. Behind the Mic was doing some good numbers because we were talking about CM Punk and UFC 225. Of course, CM Punk took a big loss at UFC 225, and we highlight that and we talk about that. But of course, on top of that as well, we talk about Corey Graves and the fact that he couldn't keep his mouth shut. So We talk about that entire situation with Corey Graves and the UFC 225 loss, as well as WWE's persistence with this Roman Reigns garbage, this Roman Reigns initiative, Roman Reigns corporate agenda, because, of course, the rumors are in the books that, of course, Roman Reigns is going to be the one challenging for the Universal Championship at SummerSlam, and that is not good news by any stretch of the imagination. So, of course, we do talk about that on Behind the Mic. You can also go check out 2 videos that I found very interesting to make, and hopefully you guys find very interesting if you guys do decide to go back and watch it, because I did upload how I would book Raw going into SummerSlam, or in other words, going through these summer months, Money in the Bank, Extreme Rules, and SummerSlam, and how I would book SmackDown Live. 2 separate videos going into SummerSlam. We book both Raw and SmackDown, so make sure to go check those out. You can find that in the Ringside Wrestling YouTube channel video list. And of course, if you don't want to miss content like this each and every single week, content of the manner that is coming up this week as well, you have a Money in the Bank review. Of course, we are going to be reviewing it. If we're previewing it, we're going to be reviewing it. You have Behind the Mic coming this weekend, regularly scheduled content right there. You have an NXT TakeOver review on Saturday after that show goes off the air. And on top of that, you have an NXT TakeOver preview and predictions video coming out tomorrow on Friday. So you can expect a bunch of content on the Ringside Wrestling YouTube channel for the upcoming week, and you guys know exactly what that means. That means that there is no better time to subscribe. Make sure to smash that subscribe button, because of course you're getting a bunch of content on here that you are not getting anywhere else each and every single week. So make sure to subscribe, make sure to like, make sure to comment in the comment section below. Tell me everything you're thinking, because for now, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to go straight into talking about the Money in the Bank 2018 pay-per-view. And of course, Money in the Bank, what we're going to start off talking about here is the quality of Raw and SmackDown going into this very show. And quite frankly, SmackDown Live has shown a lot of decent stuff going into this pay-per-view on Sunday. I mean, SmackDown, the reason that I feel that they have been so consistent is the fact that they have this roster that you can present so many fresh and intriguing matchups with, and they've done a good job at utilizing it. I don't know what the hell has changed behind the scenes as well, but this show is being presented in a better manner than it was, say, even 2 or 3 months ago. And SmackDown Live, if you want to give WWE television a positive thumbs up, SmackDown Live is exactly that and has been exactly that. Not the greatest show by any means. I wouldn't even say it's a good show, but it has been a consistently decent show, and hopefully they continue to tread that line of decent to good, because quite frankly, they have the roster to boot, and with television booking like the kind of what we've been seeing as of late on SmackDown Live, if that continues, we can be seeing some very, very good stuff. Of course, they've been utilizing Daniel Bryan. I love the way that they did the Money in the Bank qualifying matches going into this show. They stretched it out, unlike Monday Night Raw that failed to do that and left themselves 4 weeks of pretty much doing nothing going into this very pay-per-view, of just mixing everybody who's in a Money in the Bank ladder matchup together, because they threw all the Money in the Bank qualifying matches at you within the first 2 to 3 weeks. SmackDown Live, on the other hand, stretched it out 4 weeks. They managed to do that, and they did it in an interesting manner. They had teased that Big Cass was out of there, so they did it in a more creative fashion, and it helped their television product. So at the end of the day, there's a lot of good stuff going on SmackDown Live, but I cannot say the same about Monday Night Raw. Monday Night Raw is in a categoric state of terror right now, each and every single week. On Monday Night Raw, we come on to see the worst television show on television right now, and no, that is no generalization. I firmly believe that this show is god awful, and it is the farthest thing from entertaining. And it seems to be that WWE, that is their main focus. Instead of focusing on the wrestling, which actually proves to be the best part of your shows because you have a roster that can back that statement up, WWE continues to try to pander to nobody because I can't see anybody who's asking for this. They continue to pander to this garbage, and they continue to put on segments like what we saw between Sami Zayn and Bobby Lashley, which was one of the worst segments in Monday Night Raw history. Definitely the worst segment on Monday Night Raw this entire year. Sami Zayn bringing out Bobby Lashley's sisters. That was a terrible segment. And we had to see that on the build to this Money in the Bank pay-per-view. It's feuds like that, Sami Zayn versus Bobby Lashley, which have been equally more ridiculous or advancingly more ridiculous as the weeks go on. I mean, holy shit, who the hell is supposed to take this television product seriously? Monday Night Raw is terrible. Monday Night Raw is terrible each and every single week, while Smackdown Live, on the other hand, has actually proved to be pretty decent at that. So I don't know what the situation is with Monday Night Raw, backstage, whoever the hell is booking that, but I'm telling you, they're going to have a harder time, and they've made it a harder time for themselves due to the fact that Monday Night Raw is 3 hours. 3 goddamn hours is Monday Night Raw. That is terrible. That is so terrible right there, and it's hard to book any show for 3 hours and making that something that you can keep everybody invested in. And you see that in the ratings, because that third hour comes and the ratings drop like a needle. They drop right away. But I mean, you look at things, and even if the show is 3 hours, with the amount of talent they have, there's no reason for us to be getting this terrible television each and every single week. It is just absolutely daunting to watch. And by the end of a Monday Night Raw, you just want to go to sleep. You just want to jump off a bridge because what you've seen is unbearingly awful. But that is besides the point. That is what I've been thinking about Monday Night Raw as of the past couple weeks. And quite frankly, none of these shows have been overly exciting at all. It seems like WWE, they turn it off when it comes to WrestleMania from January to April. From January to April, they turn the engines on, everything's running, and things actually get a little better for the WWE product. But anything else, and these shows are just uneventful and terrible. And this is what spikes, or this is what inspires these ratings decline that we get around this season. And it doesn't need to be necessary, because you can, with the rosters that you have at hand, with the talent that you have in hand, you can make a show where you can keep the interests of your viewers. But WWE fails to do that, and quite frankly, there's no reason for it except their own failures. But that is besides the point, because we move on here to talking about the build to Money in the Bank, and quite frankly, I just told you what the build to Money in the Bank was like. It was uneventful. This is one of your bigger pay-per-views of the year. You can consider this part of your Big Five, along with WrestleMania, the Royal Rumble, Survivor Series, and SummerSlam. This show should be thrown right in there at this point. I know they've made every single pay-per-view dual-branded, which can spark a whole discussion in its own right, and has in the past, but this show should be considered up there with that being among your bigger shows. And quite frankly, WWE has not presented it as that with the build that we have seen as of late. The build to the show has been very uneventful. Nothing crazy has happened when you could have made things seem more important coming into the show. Very nonchalant stuff, and it shouldn't be nonchalant. It should be right on top of the ball game. Everything should be heated, and I feel like the flames have been cooled. But I mean, speaking of things that are going to get you heated, the fact that this pay-per-view is 4 hours, and the fact that all WWE pay-per-views going forward are now 4 hours, I have no idea how the hell I'm going to endure this crap. 4 hours. You've got to be kidding me with that threshold of time. But I mean, making all these pay-per-view dual branded, what did you expect? How the hell are you supposed to get all this talent between both shows on these pay-per-views? Well, you give it more time. Still not as much time that the talent would get if these brands had their single branded pay-per-views. But I mean, what can you do? what can you do? WWE, they want to monetize the product as much as they can, and this is their effort to do that. Who the hell am I to say anything about that? Either way, we're going to come on and watch these pay-per-views, but it's definitely going to suffer. It's definitely going to suffer, and you can't deny that. But either way, that is how I feel about the build. Uneventful. That is how I feel about the quality of Raw and SmackDown Live. But we move on here to talking about the match card itself. And you have an interesting match card that I cannot care less about on this show. WWE has failed in the build to this pay-per-view. If you want to extend this discussion a little bit, WWE has failed to make this pay-per-view anything on this pay-per-view, any matches, something that I am invested in. I cannot care less about anything that we're seeing on this card, and quite frankly, that again is WWE's failure when it comes to building to this show. I should care about matches such as Ronda Rousey versus Nia Jax. Instead, this is a feud filled with plot holes and things that don't make sense. And believe me, we're going to emphasize that. But speaking of the card, let's run through it. They have a WWE Championship matchup, which is AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura. And it is a last man standing match. We have a Raw Women's Championship matchup between Nia Jax and Ronda Rousey. SmackDown Women's Championship, Carmella versus Asuka. We have a men's Money in the Bank ladder match, Braun Strowman versus Finn Balor versus The Miz versus Rusev versus Bobby Roode versus Kevin Owens versus a member of the New Day versus Samoa Joe. So that is quite packed right there. 8 men in there, and then 8 women in a women's Money in the Bank ladder match. That would be Ember Moon versus Charlotte Flair versus Alexa Bliss versus Becky Lynch versus Natalya versus Lana versus Naomi versus Sasha Banks. You have an Intercontinental Championship match between Seth Rollins and Elias. Roman Reigns versus Jinder Mahal. Oh my God. And Daniel Bryan versus Big Cass. Not to mention Bobby Lashley versus Sami Zayn. And on the kickoff show, apparently, there's a SmackDown Tag Team Championship matchup between the Bludgeon Brothers and Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. The fact that that matchup is on the pre-show just goes to show you that the Bludgeon Brothers are going to retain. They're not going to lose their titles on the pre-show. That is all I have to say about that. I'm not going to go over that match. But I guess we have to start with something here. And what is on the bottom of this list is Bobby Lashley versus Sami Zayn. So let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. The worst consistent thing, the consistently worst thing, I guess you can say, on WWE programming to this date, Bobby Lashley and Sami Zayn's feud, and quite frankly, this is awful. This is so awful because Sami Zayn is so great. He is so great, yet WWE has put him in a position where you cannot help but hate this guy. He's awful. He is awful in this position, and that is such a terrible thing to say because Sami Zayn, you already know the immense amount of talent that he possesses, and WWE has taken Bobby Lashley and whatever upside Bobby Lashley had to him, WWE has taken that upside and completely neglected it. And that upside, if you have to ask me, the upside is Bobby Lashley's dominance. He is dominant, is Bobby Lashley, and WWE has completely failed to bring that out in him, and instead, he's all about family. And speaking of goddamn family, holy shit, was that segment where Sami Zayn brought out Bobby Lashley's family terrible. And Sami Zayn has continued to try to push the buttons. That is what this feud has been built off of. Sami Zayn is pushing the buttons of Bobby Lashley. Alright, he's bringing out this guy's family. He's making fun of them. He's bringing up that this guy is in the army. He's bringing up that this guy was in the army, and he's quite frankly neglecting the fact that Bobby Lashley was in the army. He's denying that Bobby Lashley ever even served. He's going on Bobby Lashley's Instagram account and making fun of it. Yet Bobby Lashley, throughout this entire feud, continues to smile like a goddamn goon. You've got to be kidding me. He continues to smile and smile and smile, and he continues to be portrayed as if he has no backbone to him. I mean, is anything that Sami Zayn's saying with you even striking a chord, or are you just standing there because you're the babyface and the babyface has to smile? Are you kidding me? This feud came off as not just the most cringeworthy thing that you can ever see, but it also came across as the most fake and ungenuine, if that's even a word, thing that you can ever see. There was nothing genuine about any of this. It came across as so forced. Why are you smiling? What are you smiling about? This guy is making fun of you. He is trying to get under your skin, and you're not even reacting to it. You're not even saying, look, I see what you're doing here. You're trying to get under my skin. Not even that. He just continues to smile and smile and smile. What are you smiling about? Bobby Lashley looks like an absolute buffoon after this feud. Not to mention the terrible verbiage that has been forced into the mouth of Sami Zayn. Holy shit! What the hell are we watching? And just this past week on Monday Night Raw, we're forced to see an obstacle course? Where is this coming from? An obstacle course? Are you kidding me? Is this American Ninja Warrior or is this Monday Night Raw? Because I can't tell the difference. I really cannot. But either way, Bobby Lashley comes out for this obstacle course, and instead of outsmarting Sami Zayn, this guy actually decides to run the obstacle course for Sami Zayn. He looks like an absolute stickhead, a bonehead, and he runs the obstacle course. Now this guy is tormenting you. This guy is making fun of you, and you think he has no plan to perhaps, I don't know, attack you afterwards? Bobby Lashley, that never even crossed his mind. He came out and he ran the obstacle course. Sami Zayn made Bobby Lashley look like a complete idiot on Monday Night Raw. So this guy has just debuted, or returned, I guess you can say, in April, the night after WrestleMania, and WWE, it took no less, and this feud started like a month ago, so it took no less than a month for WWE to take away any hope that this guy could actually succeed, because even upon looking at this guy, you already see failure. You say, this guy is a charisma vacuum, and that's exactly what he is. He is a charisma vacuum. And instead of WWE proving us wrong, they decide to unleash this guy's worst attributes. He's terrible on the microphone, passable in the ring at best. But instead of making this guy dominant, instead of making him a man of little words, they immediately resort to making him look like a buffoon, and in that case, ruining Sami Zayn along with it. You have got to be kidding me. This feud has done irreversible damage to both of these men, and it is an absolutely terrible reality that this is what we're facing. As far as the match goes at Money in the Bank, I can care less about what happens in the middle of this ring. Is it probably going to be a decent matchup? Yeah, but when there's no storyline behind it, when there's more embarrassment than there is investment into this matchup, what am I supposed to tell you here? Sami Zayn and Bobby Lashley, they can go in there and put on a pretty decent matchup. Either way, this is going to fall flat, and there is one reason for that. This feud has sucked, and nobody could possibly be invested in anything that you see between these two men. Who the hell do I think is going to win? This one is a no-brainer. Clearly, they're going to have Bobby Lashley get his revenge against Sami Zayn. It won't hurt Sami Zayn to take the pinfall loss against Bobby Lashley. And I guess you can say Bobby Lashley needs to get his revenge after all the torment and all the crap that Sami Zayn has done to him. Either way, it has not refrained WWE from giving us some awful programming. And for that very reason, I can't care less. We move on here to Daniel Bryan versus Big Cass. And this feud, I mean, it's something that you can really say that you don't care about. But at WWE, they have put some decent effort into making this something of actual avail. And quite frankly, it's pretty decent what they're doing between Daniel Bryan and Big Cass. I don't like that the feud is continuing by any means. By this point, I would have had Daniel Bryan move on to bigger and better things. And believe me, all the amount of talent that there is on the Smackdown Live roster, there is no reason whatsoever for Daniel Bryan's first opponent out of injury, coming out of WrestleMania, to be Big Cass. And that still stands true to this point. And when you see Daniel Bryan cut a promo compared to whatever Big Cass is doing. At this point, Big Cass, you can't believe a word coming out of his mouth. It's not believable. It's not believable at all. And quite frankly, that segment where WWE had Daniel Bryan attack Big Cass and just absolutely get the better of him and have the heel hook applied, I think that did more damage than it did good to Big Cass if you think about it. Because Daniel Bryan, this smaller man, just absolutely beat the shit out of him. And Big Cass looked like a unwavering loser. And that took him out of commission for the next couple weeks. And that's where they went into that mode where, oh, is Big Cass out for real? You thought that he actually suffered a real injury. And then, of course, he came back. But either way, he took a lot of damage there in that segment because you're the bigger man. You're saying that you're better than Daniel Bryan. But there he was tapping. He was the loser there. He was the loser. So I don't know what the situation is here, but I can't at this point even believe that Daniel Bryan would take the loss to Big Cass. And Big Cass, coming out of his injury, because he came back from an injury, you would expect WWE to put him in a program where he can actually benefit and take the W. This isn't a program with Daniel Bryan where I want to see Big Cass come out on top. It is not a program where I want to see Big Cass come out on top whatsoever. And the reason for that is one thing and one thing only. He is not in a position where I want to see him at the top. He is not ready for that. And quite frankly, Daniel Bryan does not need to be in this feud, and he's above this. He is above this. So having him lose to Big Cass, that does not spell good things for Daniel Bryan. I want to see Daniel go on to do bigger and better things. I want to see Daniel in the WWE Championship match at SummerSlam, and being stuck in a feud with Big Cass is not going to get him there. So quite frankly, I have mixed opinions about this feud because it has been pretty good what we've seen on Smackdown Live television. That promo, especially that Daniel Bryan cut on Big Cass on WWE.com, and they actually played a bit of it on Smackdown Live last night, that was a monster promo. I enjoyed the hell out of that. And he just completely owned Big Cass there. And that's why I'm in this mode where I'm just saying, Daniel Bryan, by every single facet, is better than this guy. So how am I supposed to come on here and tell you I think Big Cass should win? He's not in the position where he's ready for that. Not at all. So that is my opinion on that. I think that Daniel Bryan should be the one to get the win here, and Daniel Bryan should be the one, quite frankly, moving on to bigger and better things, because he is above Big Cass. And coming into this feud, that was always going to be the mindset. Daniel Bryan is here, up here, and Big Cass is down there. So whatever you do, whatever matchup you put these guys in, it's always going to be Daniel Bryan over Big Cass. And quite frankly, I don't understand where Big Cass gets the benefit in any of this here, because even as over the past couple weeks, once again, you've seen Daniel Bryan come out on top in each and every single facet. We move on to what is undoubtedly going to be the worst show matchup on this show. I mean, what can I tell you? What can I tell you? I mean, I can tell you something. This feud hasn't been entirely awful. This feud, surprisingly enough, has been outshined in terrible by Bobby Lashley and Sami Zayn. So Roman Reigns and Jinder Mahal, for that result, they're probably counting their blessings. They're probably counting their blessings that Bobby Lashley and Sami Zayn have had an absolutely terrible feud. But that does not stop me from saying that there's no reason for this to be happening on Monday Night Raw. This feud is terrible. This feud is the conglomerate of taking the two worst acts on your entire roster and putting them in matches together. I mean, who thought of this? Who thought of this? Yeah, let's take Jinder Mahal, who is booed, and Roman Reigns, who is booed, both out of the building, and let's put them in a match together. You know what? Not just a match. Let's put them in a feud together. I know the mind process that WWE is going through here. They're thinking, well, look at that. Look at all the heel heat that Jinder Mahal is getting. Everybody hates Jinder Mahal. Maybe, just maybe, if we put Jinder Mahal against Roman Reigns, people will cheer Roman Reigns because they hate Jinder Mahal so much. No, 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 WWE. That is not the process here. That's not what's going to happen here. If anything, what's going to happen here is that they're going to say, hold up, I hate Jinder Mahal, I hate Roman Reigns, they're both in a matchup together, what the hell is this? They're going to boo both of them. They are going to boo both of them. Nobody wants to see this matchup. Nobody wants to see this feud. Nobody wants to cheer for either of these men. Yet, both of these guys are in a program together. Holy shit, this is the result of an explosion of boos. I mean, holy shit. Holy shit. Jinder Mahal versus Roman Reigns. You ever thought you'd see the day where you have to jump off a bridge watching WWE, where you have to shoot yourself in the head watching WWE? Well, this is it. This is the day, because when you see these two men in the ring together, you're either going to fall asleep of boredom because this match is going to be so terrible, or you're not going to be able to take the amount of hate that you feel for both of the men in the ring, and you're just going to you're just going to end it right there. I don't know. Either way, this feud has not been anything at all to wrap your mind around and say, oh my God, this is amazing. This feud has been quite the opposite of that. This is, oh my God, this is awful territory right here. WWE, they've had it where Roman Reigns and Jinder Mahal, quite frankly, have not been the focus of television, and that is the only reason that this feud has been better than the Bobby Lashley, Sami Zayn feud, because this feud has not been highlighted. And with Roman Reigns, you would expect them to be highlighting this feud up and down. But no, WWE hasn't done that this time around. And instead, they've put these guys on the sidelines. Don't get me wrong, they've put in their attempts to get Roman Reigns over. They've been teaming him with Seth Rollins. They've been putting Jinder Mahal in matches with Seth Rollins. But even 1 week, Roman Reigns wasn't on the show. And that's not bad news whatsoever. Quite frankly, it had no effect on the show either way. So that's that. But continuing on here to the winner of this matchup, I think that Jinder Mahal should win this matchup. Surprisingly enough, I actually think Jinder Mahal should win a matchup. That's not something I would do, but my booking here would be, if this is what I would want to happen, actually happened, I would have Jinder Mahal come out on top here and begin a summer of terror for Roman Reigns that would ultimately climax in him turning heel. You'd have him face Jinder Mahal this month at this pay-per-view, Kevin Owens at the next pay-per-view, and Bobby Roode as a heel at the next pay-per-view. He loses all 3 pay-per-view matches, and by the end, he turns heel. I went in detail on that when I booked SummerSlam, Monday Night Raw, and that's just what I would want to happen, because Roman Reigns is absolutely terrible and he has nothing to the WWE product. If anything, if he was Universal Champion and if he's going to be pushed at SummerSlam into that position, he makes this product worse each and every single week that he is a part of it. So why not take Roman Reigns and make him something great? And this can be the start of it. Taking this L to Jinder Mahal can be the start of it. Do I think this is what WWE is going to do? Hell no, because WWE has one agenda and one agenda alone, and that is to get Roman Reigns over. And whether you like it or not, whether it is by hook or by crook, they are going to accomplish that goal, and that means that by the time we hit SummerSlam, we're going to be seeing a new Universal Champion, and it's not going to be somebody who we actually want to see be Universal Champion. It's not going to be a Seth Rollins. It's not going to be a Braun Strowman. It is going to be Roman Reigns, and this terrible Universal title run that we will be having, or we have been having, with Brock Lesnar is going to continue. This terrible reign of Universal title reigns is going to continue when it hits Roman Reigns. And you know, it might have some advantages to it. The title might be back on Monday Night Raw, but at the end of the day, it's not a champion who we want. And if you put it on Seth Rollins, if you put it on Braun Strowman, it is a champion who we want regardless. So you can actually have Roman Reigns become Universal Champion, but there's one stipulation to that. There's one way that that will be an actually accepted result. Roman Reigns needs to turn heel. And do I think that's a result? Do I think that that's a conclusion that WWE is going to meet? That's not a realization that they have come to for the past 4 years. So why would they come to that now? I don't understand what the hell they're doing with this, and I don't understand why, after all these reactions, WWE continues to be blind to this reaction. But it just continues to be the law of the land, and it continues to affect everybody on the roster, whether you realize it or not. We move on here to something of actual quality on this show, what I think can actually end up being a very good matchup. It is Seth Rollins versus Elias, and if there's something that you have to say about Elias, is that this guy has been absolutely fantastic, but he's never really had, if you think about the past, wow, and it's already been a year that Elias has been on the main roster. If you think about Elias's year that he's had a great year. He's established himself as one of the best parts of Monday Night Raw week in and week out. But if there's something that you really have not realized, maybe because WWE has just booked him that well, Elias has never really had an official feud. And I guess that you can come in and say that this is Elias' first official feud. Usually when it comes to the pay-per-views, WWE has found a soft spot, a comfortable spot for Elias, where he doesn't necessarily need to be booked in a matchup. So he's usually performing, or he's in a multi-man matchup. This is pretty much Elias's, and you can go back and check the facts on this, but I think this is Elias's first pay-per-view singles matchup. So this is really going to be a proving grounds for how good Elias really is in the middle of that ring, bell to bell, because we see him in matches on Monday Night Raw, but that's Monday Night Raw. You have commercial breaks in between, and the matches can be kept to a minimum. But on pay-per-view, this is really when you have your time to shine in the middle of that ring, and especially in the middle of that ring with Seth Rollins, it's going to be a proving ground for how good Elias is, and this is something that is going to interest me very, very much. We've seen a physical style from Elias, and hopefully he can transform that into a very good matchup, because we all know that Seth Rollins especially can bring it in the ring, and that's pretty much what his Intercontinental Championship reign has been built off of. Great in-ring work, and I expect that to be continued throughout this feud. They've been putting on some very, very good stuff. It's been kept to a minimum, and yeah, WWE could have brought this to the 10th degree, and I wish it would have gotten to the 10th degree, but as far as what they've done, it's been pretty good, because Elias is very, very entertaining on the microphone. It's very hard not to get sold on whatever Elias is doing on the mic, and Seth Rollins, his intensity, and especially the crowd reaction, has allowed this feud to flourish. The segment that we saw just this past week on Monday Night Raw, the Go Home Show, was probably the best segment on that entire show, besides the Fatal 4-Way matches that of course were held on that show, because the crowd reaction to Seth Rollins, even if he's saying something that isn't necessarily the most exciting, everybody's reacting and everybody's saying burn it down. They're chanting, and it gets you behind Seth Rollins, because you know that whatever they're doing with this guy, it is working. So that is very, very good stuff, what we've seen from this feud so far, and I'm just waiting to see what this is going to deliver in the ring. And one thing that this matchup has going for it is that this matchup is more on the unpredictable side, because you can see WWE giving that Intercontinental Championship to Elias, and especially if they have bigger and better plans for Seth Rollins going into SummerSlam, aka the Universal Championship, aka a feud with Dean Ambrose, perhaps, returning Dean Ambrose, who could be returning any of these weeks. Maybe that happens during this matchup. There's a lot of things that can happen. Imagine these two guys have a barn burner of a matchup. All of a sudden, the referee goes out, and out comes Dean Ambrose to screw over Seth Rollins. That'd be a fantastic return, no doubt about that. What if Seth Rollins goes on to retain the Intercontinental Championship, and after the matchup we get the same result? Maybe that's what goes down. I don't know, but there's a lot of interesting scenarios that can go down in this matchup. Maybe Elias wins the Intercontinental Championship. He definitely could use it. He definitely deserves it. And Elias could be a great Intercontinental Champion. There's no doubt about that. He can be an Intercontinental Champion of the likes of the Honky Tonk Man. I mean, you could just think about it, and it fits. It fits. So you have a matchup here, and you have a rivalry where either man can go over And quite frankly, I'm fine with it. I'm fine with that. And this is something that you see more so in NXT, where both men, either man can win, and honestly, you don't care. It's good. So, this is a situation that we very rarely get on the main roster. Usually, it's black and white. I want this guy to win. Big Cats versus Daniel Bryan. I want Daniel to win. Jinder Mahal versus Roman Reigns. I need Jinder to win. It's just very basic, down to the nitty gritty right there. But this match, there's actually some unpredictability in the air, and I think WWE should take full advantage of that. Quite frankly, I would give the Intercontinental title to Elias, and I would move Seth Rollins on to bigger and better things, because there's no need for Seth Rollins to have the Intercontinental Championship. He is going to be he's going to continue to be great regardless, and I think the Intercontinental Championship would be in good hands upon giving it to Elias. I'm expecting a lot of big things from this matchup, and hopefully it delivers come this Sunday. We move on here to the women's Money in the Bank ladder match. That would be Ember Moon against Charlotte, Alexa Bliss, Becky Lynch, Natalya, Lana, Naomi, and Sasha Banks. Now this is a big matchup, because this is going to determine a lot of what's going forward, especially in the Raw women's division. My want here, I want Ember Moon to win, because quite frankly, if you look at it, Ronda Rousey is the big aspect of this entire women's division. Once Ronda Rousey captures that women's championship, you know that everything is going to be on lock. You're not taking that title off of Ronda Rousey until a big event like a WrestleMania comes around. You're just not going to do it. So the question here is, who wins this Money in the Bank ladder match? Do you tie Natalya into this? Do you have Natalya win it, cash in on the same night in the Nia Jax versus Ronda Rousey matchup, and win the women's championship, creating a feud that goes with Ronda and Natalya going into SummerSlam? Is that what you do here? That makes a lot of sense, and it could definitely be something of intrigue going into these summer months. Is that what you do here? Or do you have an Ember Moon win it, proceed with the Ronda Rousey-Natalya feud regardless, push Nia Jax out of the equation, or put Nia Jax in the equation, keep the title on her till SummerSlam, and have Ember Moon perhaps cash in at SummerSlam itself, and have it be so, I don't know, she walks out of SummerSlam with the Women's Championship and goes over in the next couple months. I don't know. There's a lot of interesting scenarios here. There are people saying they want Sasha Banks to win the Money in the Bank briefcase. Becky Lynch, another interesting option. Quite frankly, this matchup has a lot of unpredictable outcomes, and as far as the quality of this matchup goes, I don't know what these women are going to do. It's definitely more packed with better names, if you ask me. 8 women. These are 8 of your best women, besides Lana, I guess you can say. These are 8 of your best women throughout both rosters of Raw and SmackDown Live. So I'm thinking that this is going to be better than what we saw last year. Because last year, you think about it, you had some duds in there. You had Tamina and Carmella. And then that really leaves only Naomi, Charlotte, and Becky, who are really going to do something special in that Money in the Bank ladder match. That's what we saw last year. This year, you got a Sasha Banks, you got an Ember Moon, you got a Charlotte, you got a Becky, you got a Naomi. These women can go. These women are going to give you some great spots, and I'm expecting a lot from this women's Money in the Bank matchup. And it's going to be unpredictable who wins as well. So it's an exciting matchup. As far as the build to this matchup goes, I mean, it's been the most generic, basic thing. Again, WWE putting all the women in the same matches, all the women who are in the Money in the Bank in the same matches just for the sake of getting them in the same matches together. You saw that 10-woman tag last week on SmackDown, Fatal 4-Ways, tag team matches on Monday Night Raw. It's been basic. It's been basic. But as far as who wins, again, these Money in the Bank ladder matches have a lot of impact. And I personally want Ember Moon to win, but I see WWE giving this to Natalya and going forward with a Ronda Rousey-Natalya feud going into the summer months of 2018. And this definitely has a direct impact on the Nia Jax versus Ronda Rousey Women's Championship matchup, which we're going to talk about right now. The build to this matchup has been an absolute cluster. An absolute cluster. There's no denying that. I do not care what you tell me. this has made a lot of zero sense, if you ask me, because quite frankly, this entire feud has been built around the fact that, or the question mark of whether or not Ronda Rousey would be able to get in the armbar on Nia Jax. Nia Jax, meanwhile, has turned face, heel throughout the past couple weeks, or at least she's been playing those roles. You don't know what the hell she is, and that entire question mark of whether or not Ronda can lock in the armbar is null and void. It's a stupid point, because if you think about it, what the hell are you really asking here when Asuka locked in the armbar on Nia Jax just a couple months prior, earlier in 2018, and there Nia Jax was tapping out, but WWE forgets and does not remember that. This entire feud's question has also been just completely erased now, and any intrigue that they had towards this matchup has been completely erased, because this past week on the Go Home show, not only did Ronda Rousey lock in the armbar successfully, but Ronda Rousey had Nia Jax tapping out to the armbar. So what are we realistically coming to this match to see? If we already know that Ronda can lock it in and Ronda had Nia tapping out, what is the question here? I have no goddamn idea. So this feud, as far as the logic behind it goes, there's been nothing to see here. But as far as the progression of Ronda Rousey goes, you've seen a lot of progression from Ronda Rousey during this feud. There's no doubt about that. The promo skills and the way she's handling herself in the ring has gotten so much better. Just the promo that she cut this past week on Monday Night Raw, that was great. That was great, and hopefully Ronda Rousey can do the same in the ring. Now, there's been rumors about this matchup not going the distance. Apparently, it's just going to be Ronda Rousey locking in that armbar, and this matchup is supposed to end in seconds. That is not something I want to see. If anything, this matchup should go the distance, whether it's good or not. I'm actually expecting it to be pretty awful. Nia Jax is terrible in the ring, and Ronda Rousey being pretty new, I don't think she's going to handle herself well in that situation. But I would have this matchup go at least 5 minutes before a Natalya comes in, and whether or not she wins the Money in the Bank, if she does, I would have her make this a triple threat, cash in on Nia Jax. You should not have Ronda Rousey being pinned. Or I would have Ronda Rousey on the verge of winning the championship, and Natalya comes in, no Money in the Bank briefcase, and she attacks Ronda Rousey, of course, starting their feud over the entire summer and keeping the Raw Women's title off of Ronda Rousey. I am personally a believer that it is too soon to be putting that Raw Women's Championship on Ronda Rousey. I would put it on her at the Royal Rumble to give these women space and time to get their feuds in before Ronda Rousey inevitably takes over, because you're not getting that title off of Ronda. You are not getting that title off of Ronda. So personally, what I proposed on how I would book Raw going into SummerSlam is that I would have Sasha Banks and Bayley overtake the Raw Women's Championship going into SummerSlam, have Sasha Banks in an impromptu championship match on Raw, whenever it may be. The Money in the Bank, the Women's Money in the Bank, a scenario that I would play in there would I would have Bayley screw over Sasha Banks, as Sasha Banks is about to win the Money in the Bank briefcase. I would have Bayley come in and screw her over. Sasha Banks is then granted a Raw Women's Championship match on Raw because she was screwed over. Of course, she wins that matchup. So from that point on, Sasha Banks is your Raw Women's Champion, and you can go on with the feud of Bayley and Sasha Banks. Of course, you'd have a rematch between Nia and Sasha Banks, whether you want to do it on another Raw or you want to do it at the Extreme Rules pay-per-view. From there, you can have Bayley become a heel, a full-fledged heel, because she's tired of Sasha Banks. And yes, it would be a less comfortable situation than if Sasha Banks had turned heel. But I mean, at this point, Sasha Banks, well, at what point are you going to turn her heel? She is the successful one. She is the one in the Money in the Bank. She won the Raw Gauntlet match. That was a perfect opportunity that you had to have Bayley win and turn Sasha heel, but WWE didn't do that. So this is the situation that we're at. From there, you can go on to Sasha versus Bayley at SummerSlam, and Ember Moon cashes in, making it so neither Sasha or Bayley walk out with the Raw Women's Championship. Ember Moon is your Raw Women's Champion, and from there you can go on doing whatever you decide to do there. But you keep the title off of Ronda until the Royal Rumble, keep the title on Moon, and you can do what you like from there. But it makes sense. It makes sense, and you move on from the terrible Raw Women's title reign that is having Nia Jax, and nobody wants to see that continue. So that's how I would handle both of those things. That's how I'd book both of those things. Do I think WWE is going to do that? Hell no, I do not. Either way, we move on to Carmella versus Asuka. I'm not even going to talk about this matchup. All I plead here is that Asuka wins. If Asuka loses this matchup, if James Ellsworth returns and make Asuka lose this matchup, you can know that the WWE is a piece of shit company, and that's all. That's all. This matchup is worthless. All I need to know is that Asuka wins, Carmella loses, new SmackDown Women's Champion. The build has been useless. Everything here has been terrible on the part of Carmella. All I need to know is that Asuka wins. That is all. We move on to the WWE Championship matchup for it is for the WWE Championship, but it is AJ Styles versus Shinsuke Nakamura, last man standing matchup. And quite frankly, I think this is going to be a fantastic matchup. I think this is the matchup where you need to have Shinsuke and AJ pour it all out. You need to have them have that fantastic matchup that we've been waiting to see since WrestleMania, because at this point, this feud, if it continues beyond this point, it is tiresome. It is tiresome. I think what you need to do here is you need to have Shinsuke Nakamura win the WWE Championship, rematch at Extreme Rules, in an Extreme Rules match, whatever you may want to do. Have Shinsuke Nakamura win over there because of the interference from Samoa Joe. Move on to AJ Styles versus Samoa Joe and have Shinsuke Nakamura go on to defend his WWE Championship against Daniel Bryan at SummerSlam. And one thing that I would absolutely avoid doing is having this matchup, and I know this is the result that WWE is going to go with. It is so predictable. They're going to have this matchup go to a double countout. But if they were smart, they would have Shinsuke win or AJ win, whichever result. Either result here is not a bad one, but you would not end this matchup in an indecisive finish. Then again, knowing WWE, that's exactly what they're going to do. But again, how many opportunities at the WWE Championship can Shinsuke Nakamura get? And ultimately, if he loses, what type of loser is he going to be looking like? Shinsuke Nakamura is playing this heel character to perfection. He's doing some fantastic things. And what we've seen between these two guys is great. We saw a fantastic contract signing. The mind games from Nakamura. He's this Joker-esque character, and I love it. I absolutely adore it. And you need to capitalize on this. At least now. It might only be a 2-month title reign before Nakamura loses it, let's say at SummerSlam. But even then, you need to capitalize on Nakamura. You need to reward him for his success. And WWE failed to do it at the right opportunity. I wouldn't call this the most opportune time, but it is definitely an opportunity to give the title to Nakamura. And I would do it now. Styles does not need the championship. He is still fantastic in his own right, and he still has bigger and better things to move on into. But I would cut his reign here and give it to Nakamura. I want a fantastic matchup. Hopefully WWE gives it to us here, and the best way that you can give us a fantastic match is by having it go an actual decisive finish. But from here, we move on to the men's Money in the Bank ladder matchup, and it is Braun Strowman, Finn Balor, The Miz, Rusev, Bobby Roode, Kevin Owens, a member of the New Day, and Samoa Joe. There was one result that you are going to go with in this men's Money in the Bank ladder match, and one result alone. That is The Miz. The Miz wins this matchup. There's no other result to it because you want the build for The Miz and Daniel Bryan to start, and the only place for that to start is at SummerSlam with this Money in the Bank cash-in that The Miz will commit, whether it's a matchup between AJ Styles and Daniel Bryan, whether it's a matchup between AJ Styles and Shinsuke Nakamura versus Daniel Bryan. You need to have The Miz cash in, screw Daniel Bryan of his dream, whether it's after the matchup or it becomes a triple threat. Screw Daniel Bryan of his dream, and that all starts here. And this is why Money in the Bank is an important pay-per-view, because these Money in the Bank cash-ins are some serious business. There's no doubt about that in my mind. And the only way you do this is to have The Miz win this matchup. As far as the matchup goes, I expect some big things out of this matchup. The Money in the Bank cash-ins and the Money in the Bank ladder matches are a lot of the only reason that a lot of people are going to watch this pay-per-view, and you need to capitalize. You need to have it be. So this is a great matchup, and with names of the likes of Samoa Joe, Rusev, Bobby Roode, Finn Balor, and Braun Strowman in there, I expect some big spots and big things. A lot of the matchup should be focused on getting Braun Strowman, the big man, out of there. So it's going to be an interesting matchup. It's going to be a lot of interesting scenarios to see how WWE is going to work this matchup. But things that I would have this matchup inspire, I would have this matchup inspire a Bobby Roode heel turn, have him recognize all the losses that he has been taking as of late to the likes of Elias, Braun Strowman, whoever the hell else, Kevin Owens. He's been losing left and right, and this Money in the Bank cash in, this Money in the Bank match was supposed to be his final opportunity, and he loses. You know what? He's done with it. He's turning another cheek. He's going to do whatever he must to win. That is the attitude that I would have Bobby Roode adopt. The Miz, of course, wins this matchup, goes on to hold that Money in the Bank briefcase for however long it may be. I think Miz can do some great work with that Money in the Bank briefcase. Of course, the Money in the Bank is always better on a heel, and I think The Miz is the perfect heel this year to be holding it and to be capitalizing on a WWE Championship opportunity. For now, that is your Money in the Bank preview and predictions. I hope you have enjoyed each and every single thing that you have heard on this video right here. Definitely had a lot of fun making it, and a lot of interesting stuff was discussed here. If you did enjoy this video, make sure to like this video, and of course, make sure to subscribe to the Ringside Wrestling YouTube channel to support all the content that you get on this channel each and every single week. Make sure to click that notification bell, comment what you think. What are your predictions going into Money in the Bank? Because for now, ladies and gentlemen, this has been Joel Perez of Ringside Wrestling Entertainment. And for now, I am out of here. Thank you very much for watching this video. I will see you all next time right here on Ringside Wrestling.